a new artificial heart.
Good evening. On the programme tonight, the heart that doesn't need to beat.
30 years ago this week, Tomorrow's World showed the first artificial heart. But 3 decades on, no one has yet developed a successful permanent replacement for the human heart. Well, here's the latest hope. A pump that spins 10,000 times a minute inside the body.
Also, Philippa Forrester tracks the future of air travel, keeping tabs on planes out of radar range.
And I meet the chiropodist who's tracing Britain's ancient history through the bones in skeletons' feet.
But first, diamonds. They're forever, they're a girl's best friend, but most of all, they're irresistible to thieves. And once your precious gem's been prized from your precious ring, there's precious little you can do to prove it's yours. Well, all that's about to change. There you are, my beauties. Cash leaves an incriminating trail of serial numbers behind the careless villain. But once these have been ripped out of their setting, diamonds become completely anonymous. Pocket-sized and almost impossible to trace, loose diamonds have become prized by criminals as hard currency for illicit deals. Even to expert eyes, matching a haul of stolen gems to their rightful owners is fiendishly difficult. And this is where all the uncertainty leads, to a secret warehouse where the Metropolitan Police presides over 14 acres of unidentified stolen property, every piece still in search of an owner.
At the moment, in storage, we must have literally hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of jewellery. I mean, the stuff I've got there, you could open a shop tomorrow very, very easily. The amount that goes back to the public is absolutely minimal, probably as low as 1%.
To catch a thief, the diamond has to have been scrutinised beforehand by an expert valuer. But reading the stone is a black art with plenty of cases of mistaken identity.
The whole of the system of grading diamonds is, unfortunately, an inexact science. It is purely a personal opinion. Depending on the size of the stone, a carat diamond could take as long as an hour to grade fully, but if you're looking at a much bigger diamond, it could take as long as several days.
The only way to outshine the diamond thieves was to go for something slightly more scientific, a foolproof way of identifying each diamond individually. So, out with the valuer's lackluster descriptions and in with a sparkling new machine, which gives an instant and precise account of a diamond's facets and flaws. The inventors realized that what's unique about a diamond is its sparkle. The way laser light is scattered by a stone into thousands of tiny beams is as unmistakable as a fingerprint. By taking a snapshot of the position of every tiny point of light bouncing off the surface of the diamond, this unique pattern can be stored and produced as evidence. The manufacturers claim that no two diamonds will ever produce the same pattern, even if they're cut to the same shape from the same stone. Well, I happen to have two such diamonds right here, so identical to the naked eye that even the jeweller that cut these can't tell them apart. Well, Julian Radcliffe from the company that's invented this machine is here to see whether it can spot the difference.
It's all yours. No problem. We take one of the diamonds. We put the diamond in the machine, align the pattern.
And this is the fingerprint of the mystery diamond. The green dots show the prime suspect for a match, plucked from a databank of millions. The two patterns shift and turn until they line up perfectly.
So the diamond in here should be diamond A.
You've gone for diamond A.
Correct.
And the answer is... diamond A? But the real test is in court. In America, gem printing has fingered dozens of thieves, returning $2 million worth of diamonds to relieved owners.
As regards the imaging of diamond rings, I mean, that is absolutely a brilliant breakthrough. To have a system whereby gem has been marked and the profile has been done and it cannot belong to any other person, it would be absolutely invaluable to us.
Sadly, for the thousands of stolen gems already in storage, it's too late for fingerprinting. Without definite proof, everything here will go under the hammer for public auction. And if you think you recognise any of the jewellery in that film, please call the Metropolitan Police on 0181 284 9731. That's 0181 284 9731. You'll find that number on CFAX, page 623, and on our website.
Now, to our top story. Heart transplants have been a great scientific success, but sadly, thousands of people die waiting for a donor organ. Now, the answer would be a permanent artificial heart that could be mass-produced, but that's been an elusive goal. Although the first artificial heart was implanted 30 years ago this week, since then they've only proved to be a temporary solution. However, a chance meeting between the surgeon who performed that first operation and a NASA engineer may now lead to a permanent replacement for the human heart. Every morning, Albert Williams has to go through a bizarre ritual. He unplugs the mains electricity cable that has kept him alive through the night and switches to batteries. Deep inside Albert's body is an artificial heart, a beating pump fitted nearly a year ago when his own heart began to fail.
I really thought I was going to die. It got so that I couldn't walk 5 feet. I couldn't put my shoes on. I'd get tired of putting one shoe on and sit back, take a breath before I could put the other one on. Got to the point that I couldn't do anything.
A year after receiving his artificial heart, checkups show that Albert is a changed man. But he's living on borrowed time. Nobody has ever survived beyond the 2-year mark with an artificial heart in place. Unless a human heart transplant donor is found, Albert's long-term prospects are grim. Donor organs are scarce, so the race is now on to build a reliable, permanent artificial heart. One man thinks he now has the answer with a revolutionary new approach. Dr. Michael DeBakey from Houston, Texas, has spent a lifetime working towards his dream. Back in 1966, DeBakey fitted the first ever artificial heart. Tomorrow's World was there.
57-year-old DeBakey is often called the Texas Tornado. These hands have performed hundreds of intricate heart operations, but this one is to be a milestone even in DeBakey's already extraordinary career.
This, the world's first artificial heart operation, was a success, but the pump was taken out after 10 days, once the patient's own heart had recovered. Encouraged by this early success, DeBakey and other pioneers expected that by the 1980s, they would be fitting tens of thousands of pumps. But by most standards, artificial hearts have been a failure. Dozens of designs have been tried. Researchers have attempted to mimic the human heart with sophisticated valves producing a beating mechanical heart. Getting these valves to work reliably year after year has turned out to be extremely difficult. Other problems have stemmed from the blood itself.
The two biggest problems we had to deal with were first, destruction of the blood cells, producing hemolysis particularly, and secondly, clot formation, thrombosis.
Blood cell destruction and clot formation have dogged all the beating artificial hearts. DeBakey decided that a radical new approach was needed, and making a device mechanically strong enough to survive for years was still a big priority. Dr. DeBakey and his team realized that they had a major engineering problem on their hands. But fortunately for them, Houston just happens to be home to some of the world's most skilled engineers, here at NASA's Johnson Space Center. When DeBakey talked to one of his patients, a leading scientist at NASA, he realized they might be able to come up with a new approach he so desperately needed.
When the DeBakey team came to NASA here at the Johnson Space Center, we sat down with them to understand the requirements. And some of the requirements included a highly reliable pump, very small, one that doesn't damage the blood, and one that's very efficient. So we thought about it being a turbine pump, somewhat like a small jet engine used on spacecraft.
NASA's idea was to stop trying to mimic a beating human heart and use a pump that spins 10,000 times a minute. It only has a single moving part, a space-age turbine blade. The blood moves so fast that it doesn't have time to clot. The patient's own heart is left in place. The high-speed pump fits directly into it, doing all the hard work. With these fundamental principles established, they started building prototypes. The crucial issue turned out to be the precise shape of the blades. In the early prototypes, the blood cells were torn apart, but that problem was eventually ironed out. After years of fine-tuning, the team has come up with a design that they think works reliably without producing the dangerous blood clots. But the only way to prove that is by trying it out on living animals. And that's what they're about to do here now. The surgeons are preparing to place the pump directly into the heart of a calf. This operation could prove a defining moment in the history of the artificial heart. For DeBakey, it's as crucial as the pioneering operation he carried out in 1966. Here, the pump is going to be placed inside the animal's heart. The most dangerous part is boring a hole right into the beating heart with a glorified corkscrew. Once the surgeon started, there's no turning back. The pump has to be pulled into position as quickly as possible. Before they can switch the pump on, it has to be completely free of air. Air bubbles are just as dangerous as blood clots. But will the pump work? The future of thousands of lives could hang on this moment. The pump is connected up and switched on. It's now doing the work of the calf's own heart. And every readout says it's working perfectly. After 30 years of dashed hopes, DeBakey is cautiously optimistic.
As far as the design is concerned, we pretty much settled on the design. We hope by the end of this year we will have completed the animal experimental work, and therefore we would look forward to doing the clinical trials on humans early next year.
So, the first human being should receive DeBakey's new pump in 1997. He hopes that person will see in the new millennium with his pump whirring inside them. Then, DeBakey's life's work will be complete.
Coming up, a major step forward in archaeology, identifying skeletons feet first.
And the guiding light for drivers in the fog.
Now imagine for a moment that you're jetting off to sunny Florida. You'd think you were constantly under the reassuring eye of air traffic control radar all the way. But you'd be wrong. Most of the world's skies are out of radar range, and controllers rely on pilots relaying their position back to base. Well, the Civil Aviation Authority are now working on a new system that could plot accurately the position of every aircraft anywhere in the world. It allows them to fly aircraft closer together and still stay safe. Philippa Forrester checks it out.
Every day around the world, 3 million people take to the air, a number that could double in the next 20 years. That means a lot more aircraft in already crowded skies.
Guiding those aircraft safely around the world is the problem facing air traffic controllers, and this is their future. It's a working simulation of the new National Air Traffic Control Centre. The whole operation depends on pinpointing aircraft position minute by minute, and that's where the future could hold a kind of revolution.
If controllers could be absolutely certain of where aircraft are throughout a flight, then they could allow much more efficient routing. But that means going beyond the reach of radar. At the moment, for most of its journey, a long-haul aircraft is just not visible.
One of these aircraft, though, can be spotted anywhere. Unique amongst the British Airways fleet, Lima Zulu has been fitted with new equipment, which means that it can send messages about its position from anywhere around the globe.
Outside, the only clue is a flat antenna that directs the messages to a communications satellite. The information comes from the onboard navigation system.
But it is still a new idea, and it's still being tested. So, Captain, where are you off to?
We're off to Tokyo today, and our route's going to take us to the east coast of the UK, across Europe, and up to the Baltic, and across Russia.
Okay, well, I'm off to the test centre in Bournemouth to track your progress. So
Good.
hopefully I'll talk to you later.
We'll look forward to it.
All right, good luck.
Cheers.
Once Lima Zulu is in the air, the link up with the satellite starts working. The aircraft's position and other information like altitude and airspeed is beamed up to a geostationary satellite, and that sends it down to a receiving station on the ground.
And from there, the last hop is to here, the CAA's development centre just outside Bournemouth. And it's here, about 2 hours after takeoff, that we should be able to see just how Lima Zulu's doing.
If you look on this map here, she's about 2 hours out of Heathrow, and she's just coming up over the Estonia-Russia border, with St. Petersburg on the left.
So how often are we getting this information?
At the moment, we're getting it once every 5 minutes, but we can go as low as once every 30 seconds. We can get anything from the flight management system, and you can see on this screen here, outside air temperature. How do you fancy that?
Minus 56.
We get the track of the aircraft.
Is this them?
Oh, hi there, Philippa. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, we're having a good time up here. We're making very good progress, and in fact, our present position is just...
No, don't tell us. According to our screens, you're over the Russia-Estonia border, is that right?
That's right, and we can see St. Petersburg out of the left-hand window now, just passing underneath us there.
And we also have some other information here. You're flying at 29,000 feet.
That's right, our height is 29,900 and 600 miles per hour. And we're just in a left turn now, just starting it now and over St. Petersburg.
What are the benefits of this system to you up there?
With airways, as we have them, they tend to zigzag as they cross boundaries of countries. Particularly over Siberia, we have to stay within very narrow confines of airways, and this is a very good way and a very safe way of monitoring us.
With the promise of this system, negotiations are underway with the Russians to iron out the zigzags, cutting up to an hour off flights to the Far East. Good news for passengers and airlines. They'd burn less fuel and cut costs.
We'll leave you to your airplane dinner.
Well, thank you very much. I wish you were having dinner with us.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All the best.
And the system doesn't just help over land. It could make room for many more flights over the oceans.
In the busy skies above the Atlantic, for example, aircraft fly in corridors that are 60 miles wide for safety. But if air traffic controllers knew precisely where they were at all times, then those corridors could be half the width and just as safe.
And the real treat for controllers is that an aircraft's latest flight plan can be downloaded as well. They'd then not only know where an aircraft is now, but also where it's going to be.
At the moment, this system's still going through trials, but it does prove that air traffic control over global distances is possible. As we take off on more and more flights, we're apt to take safe air travel for granted. But in the next century, that safety could depend on ways like this of keeping track of the increasingly crowded skies.
Now then, with feet firmly on the ground, let me tell you about my visit to the chiropodist. She's a fascinating woman called Phyllis Jackson, who's spent a lifetime fixing people's feet. But now she's shaking the rarefied world of archaeology, putting her intimate knowledge of living feet to a new use. identifying skeletons. Sites like this stone circle at Avebury can reveal a lot about the ancient world. But it isn't just these monoliths that interest archaeologists, it's the people who built them. And this area is rich in clues. They've unearthed tools, jewellery and weapons alongside many skeletons. But it isn't always that straightforward. Often all that's found are a few bones buried on their own. So if you want to know whether they're Saxon, Roman or Celt, it's virtually impossible.
It's extremely difficult telling different ethnic groups apart from just the skeletal evidence, simply because one skeleton looks much like any other. The differences that there are very, very small. And you can't, for example, just look at what someone is buried with, what jewellery they've got, and say, that's Saxon jewellery, therefore they are Saxon, because they could be wearing the jewellery of the people they intermarried with. So it is very difficult indeed.
But knowing who the people were is just the sort of information archaeologists want if they're to build up a complete picture of ancient Britain. Well, 79-year-old Phyllis Jackson has come to their aid. As a chiropodist, she's devoted her life to studying the parts of the body archaeologists ignore. And it was while treating her patient's feet that she made her first discovery.
When I was in the Cotswolds, I came across people who had got a totally different shaped foot. But all those people had their ancestry in Gaelic-speaking language. They were Scots, Irish, Welsh, and it seemed to me that as those people had got this shape of foot and they shared the same language, then ancestrally they were the same people.
Unlikely as it sounds, Phyllis had stumbled upon the notion that all Celtic people actually have the same shaped foot, long and thin with a flattened top, very different from English feet, which are fatter with sloping toes. Having discovered so much from living feet, Phyllis, a keen amateur archaeologist, wondered if the bones of ancient feet could also tell tales about their origins. Could she, for example, spot the difference between the feet of Saxons who invaded Britain around 500 AD and those of the native Brits?
When I first took on this investigation, looking at the outside living foot was one thing, but trying to find out where within the skeletal structure the difference lay was quite another. And I used to lie awake at night and I used to think, well, where is it? The wildest moment of excitement was when I suddenly realized that it was in this cuboid bone. When I was looking at the skeletons, that it was this bone that was so very different in the various feet.
Now Phyllis was hot on the trail. It was time to put her cuboid bone theory to the test. She examined the bones from two sets of feet. One set was known to be Saxon, and the other was an ancient Brit. Would Phyllis's trained eye be able to tell the feet apart?
This is the early Brit, and is totally different from the Saxon. It's longer, and it is narrower.
So, Phyllis was right. The main difference between the feet was the cuboid bone. In the Saxon foot, its outer edge was shorter and rough, while in the Brit, longer and smooth. Some experts were so enchanted by this armchair archaeologist that they gave her free run of their secret stores of bones, normally hidden away from the public. Phyllis spent months rummaging through hundreds of skeletons from generations of people who'd lived in the West Country, in the hope of discovering what else feet could tell her about ancient Britain.
Not only can I discover the ethnic origin, ethnic differences, but also settlement and tribal differences. If people are sufficiently interested, they will be able to work out where various tribes lived and how far they extended in their area.
Phyllis is rapidly becoming the Professor Higgins of the foot world, and although she doesn't claim to be able to spot a cockney from their feet, her fame is spreading. But what about the professional archaeologists? What did they make of an amateur gaining a foothold in their territory?
The amateur has always been absolutely essential to archaeology. always has and always will. And this is one wonderful example of how an amateur has opened our eyes to something that we've just not appreciated before. She's raised an incredible array of new and interesting questions and offered us a way in which we can begin to approach them.
I've managed to put feet on the map, and that's M-A-P, not M-A-T. Wherever this question comes up, to whom do they belong? Look at the foot bones. It's quite incredible what the feet can tell.
Phyllis Jackson there, the Miss Marple of the metatarsal. Now, the A4 autostrada near Verona in Italy is one of Europe's accident black spots. Recently, 11 people were killed in one of the regular pile-ups on the motorway. It's all because of fog, which curses this stretch of the road. Rebecca Stevens went there to see how lasers could make driving safer.
We get some real pea supers here. In fact, for 6 months a year, there's hardly a day that goes by without at least some fog or mist. It's a nightmare for drivers, but also the perfect spot to test out a new safety system for fog. Last year, a 1 kilometre section of this road, the autostrada between Verona and Mantova, was fitted with a laser guidance system to help keep drivers on course in the thickest fog. Every 25 metres along the central reservation, there's one of these low-powered red lasers, and together they form a sort of optical guardrail to mark the edge of the road and guide drivers along it. That could be an important safety factor. One theory is that fog makes drivers concentrate much harder on following the road, so they give less attention to the traffic ahead. The lasers should let them put their attention back on the traffic. You can see the laser effect most clearly at night. Now, in just a moment, we'll be coming up to the experimental section, and you should be able to see the beams snake along the side of the road. The beams need to be clearly visible, but at the same time, they mustn't dazzle or confuse drivers. That's the reason for using lasers. In clear conditions, the beam is virtually invisible, but the thicker the fog, the brighter the beam appears. Now, if I breathe into the beam, there it is, you can see it shines much brighter. But what's important is it doesn't spread out and it doesn't glare. It just remains a perfectly defined line. The microscopic water droplets that make the beam visible scatter light forwards. Very little is reflected back. So drivers only see the beams pointing towards them and can't be confused by the lasers marking the other carriageway, which face the opposite direction. So far, the reaction from drivers has been very favourable, and more tests are planned. Already, though, other countries, including Britain, are looking at following the laser path.
I think that would be ideal for foggy old Britain, don't you?
Absolutely. Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week.
We'll see you again same time next week. Good night.
Good night.
Next week on Tomorrow's World, the end of jabs with banana-based vaccinations.
And straightening up the Leaning Tower of Pisa.